Okay, so now I wanted to show you probably like a little bit more quick tips on how to animate. You're sitting into your classroom and I wanted to show you like, well, how can you go back and just review it? Like you probably missed some keys or you either were not paying attention maybe. So this one over here is going to show you very quickly how to use the keyframes. So if you look onto this, I'll show you right onto the screen right now. So let's go back and let's see. I'm going to start, first of all, you got to select your character that you want to animate. And some of you might like to work into this kind of viewports, as you can see. Or in my case, I much prefer to use into the perspective because I know where I'm going to be going. In a sense, just that, okay, here I am. And don't forget the AutoKey. And when you start to do your keys, as I mentioned before, is just that you have to start and say, hey, you got to think about one axis at a time. You cannot, well, it's make it easier. Like if you're going to start to go and just do many axes, it will be really hard to fix stuff. So if you go into one axis at a time, it will make it easier. So in this case, I'm going to look at, first of all, as I mentioned, that they're looking at probably like 3 seconds and something. So I'm going to do the configuration. I'm going to add 150 frames, so I'm going to have exactly 5 seconds. And I was looking at this animator or this character. I want him to go from the backstage and then to the front stage. And don't worry, we'll fix all those scale stuff later on. But for the main thing is just that I want to do, press on the AutoKey, move my scrubber, we call this scrubber anyways, into After Effects and into Premiere, so I'm going to still use that scrubber. Move to where you want the finish of your character. So in this case, I just moved the scrubber to 150. I'm going to use the y-axis because I want my character from backstage all the way to the front of the stage where he's going to hit onto a stool later on. And it's kind of confusing for now because you don't see all of those details, but we'll add them as we go. So right now, do a little test. This is what we're looking at. Okay, so not too bad. It's working for me. And I mentioned before, it's just like, okay, I want him to bounce every second. So in this case, I'm going to do a cheat key, and the cheat keys are very important to learn. I would say that probably the main cheat key is just to keep it simple, and also before you start to move in any other direction in axes that we can call, just make a cheat key. It will save yourself. Like if you do a rotate or if you do any kind of movements, that'll be the thing. That'll be very useful. So in this case, I'll go to 30. He's still on the floor, so I'm going to use the Z-axis in this case. I'm going to go 1 up and 1 down onto the keystroke. So as you can see, now it creates a keyframe at 30. Go back to 60, 1 up and 1 down, and then at 90, 1 up, 1 down, 120, 1 up and 1 down. Oops. Okay, so right over here. So now what I'm going to do is it didn't change anything from my animation, okay? So as far as I'm concerned, but now I'm going to go in between those, and you'll see that, oh, into the Z-axis, I'm just going to click and just drag it, just to make it different. But I'm going to look at my spinners over here at the bottom, and I say like, okay, 76, that's pretty high. So I'm going to go and put that at maybe 60. Let's see, yeah, even like maybe 50 for the first part. So I'll put it at 50. So now as you can see, that's why I created the cheat key. It goes from the ground all the way up to the highest point and then back down onto the floor. And I know for a fact that that 30 keyframe is going to be very useful, so it's going to hit back on the ground. Later on, you'll see we'll do something else. So I'll go back to 45 in this case, and I'll put like over here just 15 to my spinners. You can actually just move it, but it's better to just use always the same. So in over here, I'll say 75. 50, and then 105, come on, and then it says 50, and then in this one though, I'm going to make it a special bounce, so I'm going to go to 135, and I'll make this one 70, because he's going to be jumping onto that stool, so you'll see later on. So therefore, right now, this is as what you do is just that, okay, you create the hitting on the floor, and then bouncing. So that'll be the first part of it, and then I will do another video on to the last part. So stay tuned for adding some more details.